It's my first day back at work. The guy who was supposed to be working today called in sick. Not that it matters. Being who gives a crap Saturday, I'm in jeans and a t-shirt. As opposed to casual Friday, or I don't want to be here, so I'm in pajamas Sunday. First few tickets I handle with remote desktop connections from the Batcave. Printer not printing issue, a computer that was potato slow and hadn't been rebooted in weeks. She had just been locking her screen when she went home for the day. And #X200B. Great. And #X200B. Being Saturday, I had a few hours, rewatched some Mandalorian on my phone with nothing better to do. Just after lunch someone puts in a ticket help to change the toner in a copier. The blue toner, there's a lot of these that get handled by people other than IT, it's not a super hard task but we would rather just do it ourselves than. I'm sure many of you know why. And #X200B. Well, normally it would be time to send an intern, but it's Saturday so there are no interns. I grab a fresh toner cartridge and carry it up with me. There's a guy dressed in his Saturday best, athletic shorts, stars and stripes Walmart chic shirt. And #X200B. Except he's covered in toner powder, as is much of the room. I'm having one of those moments where I'm struggling not to laugh. And #X200B. Did you call facility maintenance yet? I ask. He shakes his head no. I phone them in and report that they need to come up with a toner vac, aka electrostatic safe vacuum. And #X200B. Okay sir, listen to me very closely. Cold water, like ice cold water sir, I tell him. Putting an emphasis on cold. I put on gloves, I'm already wearing an N95 mask so that's not a worry, and tear the old cartridge out and start dusting the machine with a dry brush while I wait for facilities maintenance to come up. They show up and see the mess and give me a what the F dude look. Wasn't me. I'm not the one covered in toner powder. He rolls his eyes and nods. Being a cool guy he vacuums up the inside of the copier first so I can get the new cartridge in. Not having anything better to do, I help the guy clean up the rest of the mess. Because that's what I want to be doing, is cleaning toner on a Saturday. I wrap the empty, and the half-full broken cartridge up and in a trash bag to carry them down. I walk out into the hall and run into the guy who started this whole mess. And #X200B. I looked online and the internet said to use hot soapy water right away, he tells me. I look at him and the blue toner from the color copier is smeared all over and obviously melted in. First thought going through my mind is that committed genocide in Smurf Village. The guy used paper towels soaked in hot water to try to wash the toner off, and of course it just smeared it around and got into his skin. I've never had that problem sir, I believe I told you to use cold water, I explained before walking out. Out of morbid curiosity I checked the bathroom, and I found the Smurf murder site at one of the sinks. And #X200B. Well, I tried. So I was working at an ISP back in the 90s. Once morning, on my way to work, I got a pain in my side that was so bad that I had to pull over to the side of the road. I was out of my car rolling around on the ground due to the pain. The pain let up somewhat so I drove to the hospital. It was early morning so there wasn't any patients in emergency, so I was taken directly in. The doctor listened to my description. Then he poked my abdomen and I hit the ceiling in pain. He asked if that hurt and I said F \______ing yeah. So he said you have a gallstone. Then he said that he would get me a shot for the pain. He stayed by my bed as we waited for the shot to arrive. As we waited he made small talk and he asked what I did for a living. I told him I worked for an ISP taking care of the servers. He then asked if I could look at his printer as it wasn't printing correctly. In my company, we have a team that IT and systems hate. They're so entitled, all MBAs from top universities who look to the rest of the office as beneath them. They have the best cutting-edge hardware that any pro gamer would be envious of, and they still complain that the machines are too slow. Hint, might have something to do with the 20 Excel files you have open on top of the Bloomberg app, plus the crappy macros you wrote that have no memory management. What's that? You don't know what memory management is? You don't say. They always want any new software they can get their hands on, which needs to be approved by the larger company we belong to, and go through the proper onboarding security process, even though they barely know how to use it, because someone read that it might do something they could use at some point, and they want it yesterday. We have company-wide security policies that apply to everyone, yet they have to have exemptions because they cannot do their work like this, and upper management lets them get away with it because they make the company a lot of money, although luckily Business Daddy is zeroing down on that and slowly kicking them off of their golden pedestal. In any case, for a reason that doesn't deserve explaining, they're moving databases, so they needed a sandbox place where to do their development. When I set them up in a test server I manage personally, I told them that security policies dictated by higher powers explicitly state that I was not to give them admin rights to their database, and that there was no possible reason why they would need it. My bosses would have just given up and let them run wild on the server, but I am more stubborn and headstrong, much to their chagrin. I just gave them all the read/write/DDL permissions, so they can do and undo anything they want within their own pigsty without it contaminating the other databases we have there. Fast forward a couple of months, and after a few bumps, they're now wanting to move the tables from their old database to the new one on the sandbox. Side note, for some contract reasons, we cannot just take a backup of the old one and load it into the new server, so it really has to be a table-by-table transfer. The problem is that once they move their tables, they need to add primary keys to them, and for that they now need admin rights. My bullshit meter starts beeping. I go back on their email and remind them that we cannot give them admin rights. I want to add especially for such a ridiculous reason, but I save it for myself, and that any script they need to run that requires higher permissions, they can send it to me and I'll review it and run it. They don't like that. There's a back and forth on the emails, yes, no, yes, not, yes. But we have our weekly meeting scheduled for that day, so anything they want to tell me, they can say it to my virtual face. Along comes the meeting, and they start by saying it's non-negotiable, they need the rights because it's a lot of tables they need to migrate and they're too busy and don't have the time to go through each table with me, and they rather do it themselves. I'm confused, because they will need to script every table as a create command, so why not include the keys then and there? But, apparently someone else will automate that scripting, so they don't need to worry about that. Besides, they're too busy to go through the automation process and change the script to include the keys. I still don't understand their logic, or how they'll be automating the scripting, but I still won't give them the permissions. Any key they want to include after the tables are built can be sent over to me and I'll run the script. But no, they don't have the time to go through every table with me, they're too busy to schedule a meeting and sit down with me to get the keys added. I'm doubly confused now. Who's talking about a meeting? Just send the code you need to run. Well, unstoppable force meets unmovable object and they just get frustrated. They literally say, let's move on, because we're getting nowhere with this, and I don't plan to discuss this for 40 minutes while we get nothing done. My blood boils, and I just say fine, I just don't understand why you cannot script whatever you need to change and send it to me. You say you're too busy to go through every single table, but you'd still need to know which columns need to be set to a primary key for each table. If you don't know that, I don't see how you'll be able to add them, admin rights or not. It's worth pointing out that my boss and boss's boss have been quiet all this time, and it's just me and them bashing it out. Well, after my snarky reply, my boss jumps in and tries to defuse the situation. Okay, maybe if we set up another meeting you can explain us what you're trying to accomplish, and we'll see how we can help you. The main guy is already sharing his screen and shows us in the Object Explorer and SFMS, expand databases, expand, database_name, expand tables, expand, table_name, right-click keys, click on new foreign key, warning message pops out saying they need permissions to do that action. We need to go through hundreds of tables and do this. You want to volunteer your time just because you don't want to give us admin rights? Fine. Go ahead. Well, TFTS, here's where my jaw drops. Mr. Better Than New Top University MBA genius that is too busy to go through every single one of the tables with me is actually planning on going through each and every single one of his database tables, expand, right-click and add a primary key in the most inefficient way possible. I'm just bewildered and simply say you do know that what you've just done can be scripted, right? What? That whole action of selecting a table, adding a column to be a primary key. All of that can be scripted. I just type the command in the meeting chat. Alter table, table_name, add constraint, key_name, primary key clustered, column_name. Suddenly, his angry tone shifts in a second faster than a bipolar Karen off her meds. Oh. Okay. Fine, let's do it like that. Dash. Edit it to remove comment people found offensive. Just had my first ever, 100% true ID10T error call at work. Had someone email me asking for me to call them when I could. I phoned her and she asked if I had a replacement mouse I could give her. I asked what was happening to her current one to see if we can troubleshoot it first before total replacement, usually just a dead battery on wireless mouses. Oh, nothing is wrong with it. Someone used it while I was gone, and with COVID going around I was afraid it would be contaminated. I let her know that we are currently in short supply of mice, and to sanitize it with copious amounts of Lysol and Lysol wipes as a solution. How is your Thursday going so far? While working for a MSP, one of our clients installed a new accounting suite onto their servers that required a specific path of permission set for the application to work from the user's machine. Initial testing worked well and the head of finance could work without issues, so we decided to roll out the software to the rest of the team. The vendor created the accounts and did a basic connection test to see if the application was loading, which it did. Next day I'm handed a ticket stating that they can connect to the system but they can't pull reports. Check all the settings the vendor sent us and they all match, compare it to the manager's permissions that we know is working and they all match. Cool, must be a vendor side issue, so I'll send an email to their support and get them to just have a look. Nope, nothing wrong with the software, must be a local server issue. Hasn't even looked at the issue on the server, just outright tells me their software is working correctly. Could it be a bad permission or incorrect grouping or something like that? We all miss these things from time to time. Nope, software is working fine, give the user more permissions on the server. This went back and forth for like 3 days, managed to get a workaround by giving some users a R2P connection to the server so they can work from the actual server on the support account, cringe /, before I lost all patience and told them I would fix their software as they don't seem to be able to. Borrowed the manager's login details as he had some back-end access I couldn't get with the support account and started digging. Found a section where they had created a group for access to the reports that should have been linked to the initial group created for the users but had basically been left floating on the back end doing nothing. Manager wasn't even aware that this was a thing they could do, as the vendor told them to call them whenever a new user needed access. Linked the groups and everything started working like it was meant to. The vendor then tried to get our access banned from their server cause we are fiddling with vendor-only settings. The CEO of our client company ripped into them, threatening them with a suit for breach of contract. Sometimes I love my job. TLDR, vendor forgot to give permissions to software and tried to make us the bad guys when we fixed their mistake.